The baby screamed like something was tearing him apart from the inside. Row 12, window seat. The sound cut through the cabin like a blade dragged across glass. Passengers flinched. A woman 2 rows up pressed her fingers into her ears. A businessman in first class looked back with the kind of disgust people reserve for things they consider beneath them. The Omega holding the baby looked like he might shatter. Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. His name was Caelan Rowe. White button-down shirt stretched tight across a belly that said 7 months, maybe more. The fabric pulled at the seams. His hands shook as he bounced the infant against his chest, whispering apologies nobody could hear over the wailing. Sweat beaded at his temples. His scent, cheap drugstore blockers mixed with something raw and afraid, spread through the recycled air like a warning. The baby's name was Milo, and he wasn't Caelan's. A flight attendant appeared in the aisle, her smile thin and sharp. "Sir, you need to calm the baby or we'll have to ask you to." "I'll handle it." The voice came from 3 rows up, deep, calm, the kind of voice that didn't ask for attention because it already owned the room. Everyone turned. The alpha stood, charcoal coat tailored so perfectly it looked like armor, gold watch heavy enough to break bone. Tattoos crawled up from his collar like they were trying to escape his skin. His presence pressed down on the cabin the way weather does before a storm, inevitable, inescapable. His name was Rhett Caldero, head of the Caldero Syndicate, old money, East Coast, the kind of power that survived because it adapted, not because it crushed everything in its path. He walked toward Caelan with the kind of control that made other alphas lower their eyes, without realizing they'd done it. The flight attendant froze mid-sentence. Rhett crouched beside Caelan's seat, lowered himself deliberately, non-threatening, respectful. The baby's cries softened just slightly, tiny fists clenched and unclenched. "What's his name?" Rhett asked. Caelan swallowed, his throat worked like the word hurt to say. "Milo." The way he said it told Rhett everything. Not ownership, responsibility, the kind you take on because nobody else will. Rhett reached out slowly, hands massive but careful. Caelan hesitated, then passed the baby over like he was handing away something he'd already lost. Milo sniffed once, twice, then his eyes fluttered shut. The cabin exhaled. Caelan didn't. Tears slid down his face in silence. No sound, no sob, just water tracing paths down skin that looked too pale, too thin, like he hadn't slept in weeks. Rhett studied him, looked past the blockers and the fear, and saw something underneath that made his jaw tighten. "You're pregnant," Rhett said quietly. Caelan nodded. "I shouldn't be here." "Who's the father?" Caelan's eyes flicked up, sharp, assessing, then softer, resigned. "An enigma." Rhett went still. Enigmas were rare, more dominant than alphas, immune to pheromonal control, the kind of bloodline people hunted, exploited, killed for. "My mate's name was Keir Vale," Caelan continued, voice barely above a whisper. "He disappeared 4 months ago." That timeline landed hard, accurate, painfully so. Rhett glanced at the baby in his arms, then back at Caelan, and Milo. "Not mine biologically," Caelan's voice cracked, "but he's mine in every way that matters." Beneath the cheap blockers, beneath the fear, Rhett caught it, just for a second, a scent that shouldn't exist, enigma resonance, faint, suppressed, but there. Caelan leaned closer, voice dropping so low only Rhett could hear. "If he finds me up here, he'll kill us before we land." Rhett could have stayed seated, should have maybe. Head of a syndicate doesn't get involved in public crises on commercial flights. Too much exposure, too many cameras, too many questions that led to answers he'd spent years keeping buried. But he stood anyway. The cabin noticed, phones lifted. A teenager in row 7 angled her screen toward them. A man near the galley leaned into the aisle for a better view. Rhett met Caelan's eyes and made a choice that would cost him something he couldn't get back. He sat down in the empty seat beside him. If you were watching this happen in real time and you told him to stay seated, to protect himself first, remember that, because what comes next is partly on you too. Caelan tried to take Milo back, hands reaching out, but Rhett shifted the baby to his other arm, kept him close. The infant settled against his chest like he'd found something solid in a world that kept shifting. "Who is he running from?" Rhett asked. Caelan's breath hitched, his fingers twisted in the fabric of his shirt, pulling it tighter across his belly. "You don't want to know?" I asked. Caelan looked at him for a long moment, then at the phone in his lap. The screen was black, but Rhett saw the way his hand trembled near it, like it might come alive and bite him. Bastian Crowe. The name hit like a fist. Rhett's expression didn't change, but his scent did, just enough that Caelan noticed, just enough that the people closest to them shifted in their seats without knowing why. Bastian Crowe, rival alpha lord, trafficker, the kind of man who bought and sold omegas like livestock and called it business. Milo's his son, Caelan said, voice flat, numb, biological son. Crowe planned to auction him off to provoke a territorial war, I found out 2 weeks ago. Rhett's jaw tightened, so you ran. So I ran. Caelan's hand moved to his belly, protective, unconscious, with a body that can barely carry itself, across state lines, with a child that isn't mine. The plane jolted, not much, just enough to make the overhead bins rattle, just enough to make Caelan's face drain of color. His hand shot to the armrest, knuckles white. No, he whispered, not now. Rhett leaned closer, what's wrong? Caelan didn't answer. His other hand moved slowly, carefully to the side of his abdomen. When he pulled it away, his fingers were wet. Red! Milo started screaming again. Caelan looked at Rhett with eyes that had already accepted the worst. If this plane lands and I'm still bleeding, they'll take me to a hospital, and hospitals ask questions, and questions lead to records, and records lead to him. His phone buzzed. Once, the screen lit up. A message, no name, just a countdown timer. Touched on equals dead. The flight attendant returned with a medical kit and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. She knelt beside Caelan's seat, but her gaze kept flicking to Rhett, to the tattoos, to the watch, to the way every other alpha in the cabin had gone quiet. Sir, I need you to let me assess. He's bleeding, Rhett said, calm, factual, pregnancy complication. You need a doctor on board, not a first aid kit. Her smile tightened, we have protocols. Then follow them. She hesitated. Authority recognized authority, even when it came from the wrong side of the law. A man 3 rows back lifted his phone, zoomed in. The angle caught Rhett's face, Caelan's belly, the blood on his fingers. The recording light blinked red. Rhett saw it, knew exactly what it meant. His anonymity, the thing that kept his family safe, his business insulated, was gone, uploaded, permanent. He didn't look away from Caelan. The flight attendant pressed a towel into Caelan's hand. Can you tell me when the bleeding started? Caelan couldn't answer. His breathing had gone shallow, rapid, panic response. His sense spiked, blockers failing under stress, and the cabin reacted. An Alpha 2 rose up, stood without thinking, then sat back down hard when Rhett turned his head. Milo's screams climbed higher. The baby's face turned red, veins visible under translucent skin. People were staring now, not just watching. Staring, the kind of attention that strips you down and leaves you raw. Caelan tried to shrink into himself, tried to disappear, but you can't hide a pregnant belly on an airplane. You can't hide blood, you can't hide fear. Please, he whispered, please, I just need him to stop crying. The flight attendant's expression shifted. Pity, disgust, hard to tell which. Sir, if you can't calm the infant, we may need to restrain. You won't touch him, Rhett's voice dropped, not louder, quieter, the kind of quiet that makes your spine lock up. She stood, backed away, pulled out her radio. Rhett turned to Caelan, kept his voice low. Milo isn't yours biologically. You said that, so whose is he? Caelan's eyes filled. I told you, Crowe's. Why take him? Because if I didn't, Crowe would have used him as bait, sold him to the highest bidder, and watched the syndicates tear each other apart over who got to claim Enigma lineage. His voice cracked. If I give him back, they'll use him like a weapon. Rhett believed him, not because the story made sense, because the fear was too real to fake. A man in first class stood, tall. Broad shoulders, moved like someone trained to hurt people efficiently. He didn't look at the flight attendant, didn't look at the other passengers. He looked at Caelan. Then he lifted his phone, took a photo, and sent it. The reply came in seconds. He smiled. Rhett saw it, saw the message preview light up the man's screen before he turned it away. Found him. Caelan spoke in fragments, broken pieces of a story he'd been carrying alone for too long. I worked at a private clinic, downtown, the kind that doesn't take insurance. Rhett listened, Milo had quieted again, small body pressed against his chest like he could sense the shift in the room. They brought omegas in during heat cycles, managed them, that's what they called it, management. Caelan's hands twisted together in his lap. Crowe owned the clinic, used it to track fertility windows, to breed them. The word landed heavy. Rhett's expression didn't change, but his scent did, just enough that the alpha in first class glanced back, then forward again. I was a medical clerk. I filed paperwork, logged appointments. I wasn't supposed to see the intake forms. Caelan's voice dropped, but I did. He pulled something from his pocket, small, folded tight, a piece of paper worn soft at the edges like he'd read it 1,000 times. He didn't unfold it, just held it. Crowe had a son, biological, born to an omega he kept under contract. When the baby turned 6 months old, Crowe listed him in an auction catalogue, not metaphorical, literal, pictures, bloodline details, starting bid. Rhett's jaw worked. Why? Because Enigma bloodlines are worth more than gold to the right buyer, and Milo's mother was Enigma adjacent, rare genetics. Crowe planned to use the auction as a provocation. Whichever syndicate won the bid would become a target, war would start, and Crowe would profit from the chaos. The plane's engine noise filled the silence between them. I couldn't let that happen, Caelan said, so I took him. While Crowe was out of the country, I took Milo and I ran. You were already pregnant. Caelan nodded. 3 months. Kid got me pregnant right before he disappeared. I didn't know I was carrying Enigma bloodline until after he was gone. Rhett leaned back slightly, processing. You're saying Crowe knows you're pregnant with an Enigma child? He knows. And he wants both. Caelan's silence was answer enough. Rhett's gaze shifted to the man in first class, still standing, still watching, phone in hand. Who's your mate? Rhett asked. Keir Vale, what do you know about him? Caelan's breath caught. I know he loved me. I know he promised he'd come back. I know I got a message from his phone 2 days after he vanished telling me to forget him. You believe he sent it? No. The word came out hard, certain. Then who did? Caelan looked at Rhett, really looked at him, eyes red-rimmed but clear. Crowe. The man in first class turned, started walking down the aisle, not fast, not slow, deliberate. Caelan froze. Rhett stood. The man stopped 3 feet away, close enough to speak, close enough to smell the fear rolling off Caelan in waves. He leaned in, smiled, and whispered, Crowe wants his property back, and he wants your unborn one too. The cabin narrowed, rows of seats turned into walls, the aisle became a corridor with no exits. Rhett positioned himself between Caelan and the man, didn't touch him, didn't need to, the space between them vibrated with threat. You're in the wrong row, Rhett said. The man's smile widened, just delivering a message. Consider it delivered, now move. The man didn't move, his eyes flicked to Caelan, to the belly, to the blood still visible on the towel pressed against his side. Crowe's waiting at the gate. He's got lawyers, custody paperwork, medical proxies, everything legal and clean. The man's voice was conversational, easy, like he was discussing the weather. You hand over the baby now, maybe he lets the omega walk. Maybe. Caelan made a sound, small, broken. Milo started screaming again. The sound was different this time. Not discomfort, not hunger. Fear. The baby sensed the predator standing 3 feet away and reacted the way prey does when there's nowhere to run. Caelan's scent spiked. Blockers completely gone now. Raw omega distress flooded the cabin. Passengers shifted. An elderly woman stood and moved to a different row. A teenager covered his nose with his shirt. The man inhaled deeply, smiled wider. You smell terrified, he said to Caelan. Good, you should be. Rhett's hand moved, just slightly, just enough to rest near his coat pocket. The man noticed, his smile faded. You really want to do this on a plane? He asked. Federal crime, witnesses everywhere, cameras. You really want to find out what I'm willing to risk? Rhett replied. The man held his gaze for 3 seconds, then stepped back. But he didn't leave. He pulled out his phone, made a call, turned slightly away but kept his voice loud enough for them to hear. Yeah, it's confirmed, row 12, he's got the baby, and yeah, he's pregnant, looks like 3rd trimester. Pause, no, there's an alpha with him, Caldero I think, yeah, that Caldero. He hung up, looked at Rhett. Crowe says thank you for making this interesting. Then he walked back to first class and sat down. Caelan was shaking, full body tremors he couldn't control, his hands pressed against his belly like he could protect what was inside through sheer will. Rhett crouched beside him again, kept his voice low, steady. I need you to breathe. I can't. Yes, you can, in through your nose, out through your mouth, do it. Caelan tried, failed, tried again. His breath came in jagged gasps. Milo's cries escalated, high-pitched, desperate. And then Caelan felt it. The contraction. Sharp, sudden, like something inside him had clenched into a fist and refused to let go. He doubled over, bit down on his lip hard enough to taste blood. No, he whispered, no, no, no. Rhett's hand moved to his shoulder, firm, grounding, look at me. Caelan couldn't. Look at me. He did. I'm calling my security team. They'll meet us at the gate. You and the baby don't go anywhere near Crowe, do you understand? He'll have federal marshals, he'll have. I don't care what he has. Rhett's voice cut through the panic like a blade. You're under my protection now, that means something. Caelan wanted to believe him. Wanted it so badly it hurt worse than the contraction still radiating through his abdomen. But belief required hope, and hope was dangerous. The plane's intercom crackled to life. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. We're experiencing a minor security procedure and will be diverting to an alternate airport. Please remain seated with your seatbelts fastened. We apologize for the inconvenience. Caelan's face went white. Rhett's phone buzzed, he checked it, his expression hardened. The diversion wasn't minor, and it wasn't for security. Crowe had called it in, had connections at the original airport, had set up a legal pickup the moment they landed. Rhett had 10 minutes to make a countermove. He pulled out his phone, made a call, spoke 3 sentences, hung up. Then he looked at Caelan. You trust me? Caelan stared at him, at this alpha who'd walked into his crisis without hesitation, who'd held a stranger's baby like it mattered, who'd put himself between Caelan and a predator without asking for anything in return. I don't know you, Caelan whispered. I know, but do you trust me? The plane started descending. Caelan felt another contraction building, felt Milo's weight in his arms as Rhett handed him back, felt the eyes of everyone in the cabin watching him like he was something tragic and inevitable. He thought about Keir, about the last thing his mate had said before disappearing. I'll come back for you, no matter what. But Keir hadn't come back. And now Caelan was alone on a plane with a trafficker's son and a child inside him that people would kill to possess. He looked at Rhett and nodded. Caelan's body made the decision before his mind could catch up. The contraction ripped through him again, sharper this time, longer. He gasped, folded forward, felt something warm and wet spreading beneath him. Not blood, something else. Amniotic fluid maybe. Too early, way too early. Milo screamed in his arms. The baby's face had gone purple, veins standing out against translucent skin. Nothing Caelan did worked, bouncing, shushing, humming. The infant was spiraling into full panic, and every cry made Caelan's body respond with another wave of contractions. His shirt was soaked through, his vision blurred at the edges. A passenger across the aisle stood up. Can someone please do something about that baby? Another voice from behind. This is ridiculous. Rhett's hand was on his phone, speaking in low, clipped tones to someone on the other end. Coordinating, planning. But Caelan couldn't wait for plans. He couldn't breathe through the pain. Couldn't think past the certainty that his body was failing. That the pregnancy was ending right here at 30,000 feet, with 100 strangers watching and nowhere to run. Milo's cries climbed higher. And Caelan did the unthinkable. His hands moved to the buttons of his shirt. Trembling, clumsy, he fumbled with the first one. Then the second. The fabric pulled open, exposing pale skin stretched tight over his swollen belly. The cabin went silent. Not judgmental silence, shocked silence. Caelan lifted Milo to his chest, positioned him carefully. The baby's mouth found skin, latched instinctively, and something ancient and biological took over. Emergency lactation, triggered by trauma. by the omega instinct to soothe, to protect, to survive when every other option had been stripped away. It wasn't sexual, wasn't performative. It was desperate. Milo's cries stopped, the baby's small body relaxed, hands unclenching, breathing evening out. Caelan's own breathing slowed. The contractions didn't stop, but they eased, just enough to think again. He looked up. Every eye in the cabin was on him. Some looked away quickly, embarrassed. Others stared openly. A woman in the row ahead had tears streaming down her face. An older man nodded slowly, like he understood something he couldn't put into words. Rhett moved without hesitation. He shrugged off his coat and draped it over Caelan's shoulders, covering him, shielding him from the phones still recording, from the judgment, from the exposure. "You're okay," Rhett said quietly. "You did what you had to do." Caelan couldn't speak. His throat was too tight, his eyes burned. Rhett crouched beside him, angled his body to block the aisle, gave Caelan space to just exist for a moment without being watched. And then Rhett caught it. The scent. Clear now, unmistakable beneath the stress and the fear and the failing blockers. Enigma dominance, not from Milo, from the child Caelan carried. Rhett's eyes sharpened, his jaw set. He leaned closer, voice dropping so low only Caelan could hear. Kir didn't just disappear, did he? Caelan's eyes filled, he shook his head. He was killed. Caelan nodded, once small, broken. By Crowe. Another nod. Rhett sat back on his heels, processed. His expression didn't change, but something cold and final settled behind his eyes. Kir refused to give you up, Caelan whispered. Crowe wanted access to Enigma genetics, wanted to breed me like livestock. Kir said no, so Crowe killed him and made it look like he ran. The plane jolted, turbulence, the seatbelt sign dinged on. Caelan winced, hand moving to his belly again. Rhett stood, pulled out his phone, made another call. This one shorter, 3 words. "Burn it down." He hung up, looked at Caelan. "By the time we land, Crowe either falls or I do. There's no middle ground." Caelan believed him. For the first time since Kir died, he believed someone. The flight attendant appeared again, medical kit in hand, expression softer now. She knelt beside Caelan without speaking, checked his pulse, his color, the wetness spreading beneath him. "We're landing in 8 minutes, she said gently. "There's an ambulance waiting." Caelan's breath hitched. "I can't go to a hospital." "You don't have a choice." Rhett's voice cut in. "She's right, you need medical care." "They'll ask questions." "Let them ask." Rhett's tone was firm, final. "You're not dying to protect a secret, not on my watch." Milo had fallen asleep against Caelan's chest, small, fragile, trusting. Caelan looked down at him, then at his own belly, 2 lives depending on choices he didn't know how to make. His phone buzzed. He didn't want to look, didn't want to see another threat, another countdown, another promise of violence. But he looked anyway. A message from Kir's number. "I'm alive." Caelan's world tilted. His hands shook so hard he almost dropped the phone. Rhett saw his face. "What is it?" Caelan turned the screen toward him. Rhett read it, his expression went cold. "That's not Kir." "I know. Then who?" Caelan's voice broke. "I replied 2 days ago. I told him what flight I was on." The words landed like stones. Rhett's eyes closed, just for a second. When they opened again, the warmth was gone. "You led Crowe right to you." Caelan nodded, tears streaming now. "I thought, I hoped." "Hope doesn't matter, facts do." Rhett's voice wasn't cruel, just honest. "Crowe used your grief as bait, and you gave him everything he needed." The plane descended sharply. Caelan felt it in his stomach, in his chest, in the baby kicking hard against his ribs like it knew they were running out of time. The intercom crackled. "Flight attendants, prepare for landing." Rhett looked out the window. His jaw tightened. "What?" Caelan asked. Rhett didn't answer immediately. Then he said very quietly, "Crowe's men are already on the tarmac." The wheels hit pavement hard enough to rattle teeth. Caelan braced himself against the seat. Milo clutched tight to his chest, Rhett's coat still wrapped around his shoulders. The plane taxied slowly, too slowly, toward a gate that felt like a gallows. Rhett's phone buzzed continuously, message after message. He scanned each one, expression hardening with every swipe. "Talk to me," Caelan whispered. Crowe filed an emergency custody petition. Claims you abducted his biological son during a mental health crisis. Rhett's voice was flat, clinical. He's got a judge's signature. Federal marshals waiting at the gate. Legal authority to take Milo the second you step off this plane. Caelan's breath stopped. What about me? Psychiatric hold, 72 hours, involuntary. The words hit like fists. 72 hours in a facility Crowe controlled. 72 hours for him to do whatever he wanted to Caelan, to the pregnancy, to the evidence. "I can't." "You won't," Rhett leaned closer. "Look at me." Caelan did. "When was the last time you saw Keir? Exact location, exact time, who else was there?" Caelan's mind scrambled. 4 months ago, his apartment downtown. We were alone. He told me he had to meet someone about protecting me. He kissed me. He left. I never saw him again. Who was the meeting with? I don't know, he wouldn't say. Rhett's jaw worked. Did he leave anything behind? Anything at all? Caelan started to shake his head, then stopped. Milo. He looked down at the baby sleeping against him, at the thin cotton blanket wrapped around the infant's body. His fingers moved to the edge of the fabric, found the seam, felt something small and hard sewn inside. He looked at Rhett. Rhett understood immediately. Caelan shifted Milo carefully, worked his fingers into the seam, tore the stitching with his thumbnail. Something small dropped into his palm. A memory card, tiny, black, the kind you'd hide if your life depended on it. Keir gave me Milo's blanket the day before he disappeared, Caelan whispered. He said if anything happened to him, I should keep the baby safe. I thought he meant emotionally. I didn't know. Rhett took the card, held it up to the light. This is why Crowe wants him back. What's on it? Proof has to be clinic records, financial transfers, names, the kind of evidence that doesn't just ruin a man, it buries him. The plane stopped moving. Passengers stood, grabbed bags, filed toward the exit like nothing world-ending was happening in row 12. Caelan tried to stand, his legs wouldn't hold him. Another contraction hit, sharper than before, stealing his breath. Rhett's hand was on his arm immediately. Stay seated. I can't stay here. You can and you will. Rhett turned, caught the flight attendant's eye. She came over immediately. He needs a wheelchair and direct transport to the ambulance. No stops, no delays. She nodded. I'll arrange it. Rhett pulled out his phone, made another call, this one longer. I need you to run something. Memory card, full data extraction, priority level black. Pause. How long? Pause. Make it 10. He hung up. Looked at Caelan. My people meet us at the hospital. They run the data. We find out exactly what Keir died protecting. And if it's not enough, it will be. Caelan wanted to believe him, but belief required faith, and faith had died with Keir. The wheelchair arrived. Rhett helped him into it, settled Milo in his arms, kept the coat wrapped around both of them. As they moved toward the exit, Caelan saw him. The man from first class, standing near the gate, phone to his ear, smiling. And beside him 2 federal marshals, badges visible, hands resting casually near their holsters. Caelan's heart stopped. Rhett saw them too, didn't slow down, didn't stop. He leaned down, voice low in Caelan's ear. When we get to them, you don't say a word, not one, you understand. Caelan nodded. They reached the marshals. The taller one stepped forward, Caelan Rowe. Caelan's throat closed. Rhett's hand settled on his shoulder, grounding. He's in active medical distress. He'll answer questions after he's been cleared by a physician. The marshal's eyes narrowed, and you are. Rhett Caldero. Recognition flashed across both marshals' faces, the kind of recognition that came with warnings. The taller one hesitated. Mr. Caldero, this is a federal matter. So is obstructing emergency medical care. Rhett's voice stayed calm, reasonable. You want to detain a pregnant Omega in active labor because a known trafficker filed paperwork. Go ahead, but when the press asks why you prioritized custody disputes over human lives, make sure your answer's a good one. The marshals exchanged glances. The man from first class stepped forward. He abducted a child. That baby doesn't belong to him. Rhett turned, looked at him, really looked. What's your name? The man smiled. Doesn't matter. It does to me. The smile faded. Rhett pulled out his phone, showed the screen to the marshals. This man is employed by Bastian Crowe. Crowe is currently under federal investigation for human trafficking and illegal omega trade. The infant in question is Crowe's biological son. Yes, but he was being prepared for auction. As evidence, Caelan Rowe didn't abduct this child. He rescued him. The marshal's expressions shifted. You have proof of that? The shorter one asked. Rhett held up the memory card. On here, everything, clinic records, financial transactions, names of buyers. Kia Vale died trying to protect this. The taller marshal reached for the card. Rhett pulled it back. Not until it's been copied. You take this now, it disappears. You know it, I know it. Silent. Then the shorter marshal's radio crackled. A voice came through, distorted but clear enough. We've got Crowe in custody. Warrant just came through. Stand by. Caelan's world stopped. Rhett's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes, something cold and satisfied, told Caelan this wasn't luck. This was planned. The marshals stepped back. Get him to the hospital, the taller one said. We'll need statements later. Rhett nodded once. They moved past, through the gate, into the terminal. Caelan looked up at Rhett. How did you? I made a promise on that plane. I keep my promises. The ambulance was waiting. Paramedics moved fast, got Caelan on a stretcher, checked vitals, started an IV. One of them looked at Rhett. You family? Rhett glanced at Caelan. Caelan nodded. Yeah, Rhett said, I'm family. They loaded him into the ambulance. Rhett climbed in beside him. As the doors closed, Caelan's phone buzzed one last time. Another message from Kia's number. But this one was different. You were always worth saving. Caelan stared at it. Read it again. That's not Crowe, he whispered. Rhett leaned over. Read it. His expression changed, softened just slightly. No, he said quietly, it's not. The hospital smelled like disinfectant and fear. Caelan lay on a bed in a curtained-off section of the emergency department, monitors beeping steadily beside him. The contractions had slowed but not stopped. The doctor said it was touch and go, said the next few hours would determine everything. Milo slept in a portable crib beside the bed, safe, fed, breathing. Rhett stood near the window, phone pressed to his ear, voice low and controlled. He'd been making calls for the past 20 minutes, coordinating, confirming, building a case that wouldn't crumble the second Crowe's lawyers showed up. Caelan watched him, tried to understand how a man he'd met 3 hours ago had dismantled an empire in less time than it took to fly cross-country. Rhett hung up, turned. Crowe's been arrested, he said. Federal charges, trafficking, conspiracy, money laundering. The memory card had everything. Names, transactions, video evidence from the clinic. Caelan's breath shook. Kia recorded it. Yes, he did. He knew they'd kill him. Rhett didn't deny it. He knew, and he did it anyway. Tears slid down Caelan's face, silent, heavy. The message, he whispered, the one that just came through, you said it wasn't Crowe. Rhett hesitated, then sat down in the chair beside the bed. We traced the number. It pinged off a tower 200 miles north of here. Rural area, off-grid location. Caelan's heart stopped. Kia. We don't know yet. Could be someone using his phone. Could be. It's him, Caelan's voice cracked. I know it is. Rhett didn't argue, didn't confirm, just nodded slowly. My people are checking it out. If he's there, we'll find him. If. The word hung between them like smoke. Caelan's hand moved to his belly. The baby kicked hard, sharp little jabs against his palm. Alive, fighting. Crowe wanted this child, Caelan said quietly. Wanted to use him the same way he used Milo. Breed him, sell him, destroy him. He won't get the chance. How can you be sure? Rhett met his eyes. Because I won't let him. Neither will the law, neither will you. Caelan wanted to believe that, wanted it more than air. But the message on his phone kept replaying in his mind. You were always worth saving. Past tense. Like Keir had already decided Caelan's fate, like he'd made peace with never coming back. A nurse entered, checked the monitors, smiled gently at Caelan. Your vitals are stabilizing. Doctor says if things stay steady for another hour, you're out of immediate danger. Caelan nodded, couldn't speak past the tightness in his throat. The nurse left. Rhett's phone rang, he answered immediately, listened, his expression went carefully blank. He hung up, looked at Caelan. We found the location where the message originated. Caelan sat up too fast, pain shot through his abdomen, and Rhett's jaw tightened. There's a cabin, isolated, someone's been living there, recent activity. Keir, we don't know, my people are moving in now. I want to go. You can't, you're in no condition. I don't care, Caelan's voice was steel. If there's even a chance he's alive, I have to know. Rhett studied him, saw the desperation, the need, the love that hadn't died even when everything else had. He made a decision. I'll bring him to you. What if it's a trap? Then I'll handle it. Caelan grabbed his wrist, held on, don't die for me. Rhett's expression softened, just slightly, I don't plan to. He stood, moved toward the door. Stopped and turned back. Caelan, if Keir's alive, if he survived what Crowe did to him, he's not going to be the same person you remember. The words landed heavy. Caelan nodded, I know. Rhett left. The room felt smaller without him. Caelan lay back against the pillows, stared at the ceiling, counted his heartbeats, counted the baby's kicks, counted the seconds until he'd know if hope was real or just another cruelty. His phone buzzed. He grabbed it. A new message, not from Keir's number, from an unknown contact. He's alive, but they broke him. If you love him, let him go. Caelan's hands shook. He read it again. Again. Then he typed back. I'm not letting go. He hit send. Waited. No response. Just silence. And in that silence, Caelan made a choice. If Keir was alive, broken or whole, changed or shattered, Caelan would fight for him the way Keir had fought to protect him. No matter what it cost. The monitor beeped steadily beside him. Milo stirred in his crib, made a small sound, settled again. Caelan closed his eyes and waited for the truth to find him. One way or another. Would you fight for someone who might not remember who you are, or would you walk away to protect yourself? The diversion was never about safety. It was about control. Caelan realized it the moment the doctor came back into the room with 2 security guards and a hospital administrator whose smile was too tight and too practiced. Mr. Rowe, we need to discuss your discharge plan. Caelan's stomach dropped. I'm not being discharged, the doctor said. Your vitals have stabilized. We have patients in critical condition who need this bed. The administrator's tone was polite, final. We've arranged transport to a recovery facility that specializes in high-risk pregnancies. What facility? The administrator didn't answer. One of the security guards stepped closer. Caelan understood immediately. Crowe's reach went deeper than arrests, deeper than evidence. He'd bought people, positioned them, set up contingencies for exactly this scenario. The facility wasn't medical. It was a cage. I'm not going, Caelan's voice was steady despite the fear crawling up his spine. Mr. Rowe, you're not in a position to refuse. Actually, he is. The voice came from the doorway. Rhett stood there, wasn't alone. Behind him, a woman in a federal prosecutor's badge and 2 U.S. Marshals, real ones this time, the kind whose loyalty couldn't be bought. The administrator's face went pale. The prosecutor stepped forward. Mr. Rowe is a material witness in an ongoing federal investigation. Any attempt to move him without bureau authorization constitutes obstruction, so unless you want to add your name to the list of people we're currently indicting, I suggest you step back. The security guards didn't move. The administrator did, back toward the door, smiled that tight smile again. Of course, my apologies, there must have been a miscommunication. She left quickly. The guards followed. The prosecutor turned to Caelan. You're safe here. We've placed protective detail outside your room. Nobody gets in without clearance. Caelan nodded, couldn't speak. Rhett moved to the bedside. His expression was unreadable. Did you find him? Caelan whispered. Rhett's silence was answer enough. Caelan's chest tightened. Tell me. We found the cabin. Someone had been there recently. Food, supplies, medical equipment. But no Keir. No. Caelan closed his eyes, felt the tears burning behind his lids. There was a note, Rhett said quietly. Caelan's eyes opened. What did it say? Rhett pulled out his phone, showed him a photo. The handwriting was shaky, barely legible, but unmistakably Keir's. I can't come back yet. Crowe's people are still hunting. If I lead them to you, they'll kill you both. Stay safe. Stay hidden. I love you. I'm sorry. The message was dated 2 days ago. Caelan read it 3 times, 4, 5. He's alive, he whispered. Yes, but he thinks he's protecting me by staying away. Yes. Caelan's hand moved to his belly. The baby kicked hard, like it could sense the storm of emotions raging inside him. He doesn't know Crowe's been arrested. Rhett nodded. We're trying to reach him. Left messages, coordinates, safe extraction points, but he's gone dark. He thinks I'm still in danger. He does. Caelan's guilt was a living thing, heavy, suffocating. I replied to that message, the one from his phone. I told Crowe exactly where I was. You didn't know. I should have. You were terrified and pregnant and trying to save 2 lives. You did what anyone would do. Caelan shook his head. I led them right to me, and Keir's still out there thinking he failed me. Rhett crouched beside the bed, met Caelan's eyes. Listen to me, Keir didn't fail you, Crowe failed, the system failed, but you're still here, the baby's still here, Milo's still here. That's not failure, that's survival. Caelan wanted to believe him. But the message on his phone, the one telling him to let Keir go, kept replaying. They broke him. What did that mean? What had Crowe done to Keir in those 4 months? And would the man who came back, if he came back, still be the person Caelan loved? The prosecutor stepped forward. Mr. Caldero, we need to move. There's been a development. Rhett stood. What kind of development? Crowe made bail. The words hit like a gunshot. Caelan's breath stopped. Rhett's expression went cold. How? His lawyers found a technicality. Judge signed off 20 minutes ago. He's out pending trial. You said he was buried. He is, the evidence is solid, but until trial he's a free man. Rhett's jaw set, then we make sure he doesn't stay free. The prosecutor nodded. We are working on it, but in the meantime, Mr. Rowe needs to stay protected. Caelan's mind was spinning. If Crowe's out, he'll come for me. Not if we move first, Rhett said. Move how? Rhett pulled out his phone, made a call, short, clipped. It's hung up. Looked at the prosecutor. I'm taking him somewhere Crowe can't reach. Where? Somewhere off the grid, somewhere even my own people don't know about. The prosecutor hesitated. That's not protocol. Protocol got him ambushed in a hospital. I'm done with protocol. Caelan watched them argue, watched the prosecutor finally relent, watched Rhett make decisions that would either save him or destroy them both. And then his phone buzzed. Another message. From Keir's number. The plane's landing, I'm coming for you. Caelan's breath caught. He looked at Rhett. Rhett saw his face. What is it? Caelan turned the phone toward him. Rhett read the message, his expression shifted. When was this sent? Just now. Rhett checked the timestamp, his eyes narrowed. That's not possible. Why? Because the plane already landed, hours ago. Caelan's blood ran cold. Then who sent this? Rhett's expression went dark. Crowe, he's using Keir's phone, he's trying to lure you out. Caelan stared at the screen, at the words that had filled him with hope seconds ago. Now they felt like poison. He knows I'll come, Caelan whispered. If I think Keir's alive, I'll do anything. Which is why we're not playing his game. But what if Keir really is? He's not on that plane, Caelan Rowe is. The hospital room felt smaller, the walls closing in. Rhett's phone rang. He answered, listened, his face went hard. Where? Pause. How many? Pause. Stole them. He hung up. Looked at Caelan. Rowe's men are in the building. If you had to choose between the person you love and the child you're carrying, who would you save first? Rhett moved like violence was a language he'd spoken since birth. He crossed the room in 3 strides, locked the door, shoved a chair under the handle. The prosecutor was already on her radio, calling for backup. The marshals positioned themselves on either side of the bed, weapons drawn but lowered. Caelan sat up too fast. Pain shot through his abdomen, but he ignored it, reached for Milo's crib, pulled the baby close. How many? He asked. 4 that we know of, Rhett said. Could be more. They'll kill us. They'll try. The prosecutor ended her call. Backup's 3 minutes out. We don't have 3 minutes. Rhett turned to Caelan. Can you walk? I don't know. That's not an answer I can use. Can you walk? Caelan swung his legs over the side of the bed, stood, his knees buckled immediately. One of the marshals caught him. I'll carry him, the marshal said. Rhett shook his head. You stay here, make noise, make them think we're still in this room. Where are you going? Out. He moved to the window, looked down. They were on the 3rd floor, too high to jump, but the fire escape was 2 windows over. Rhett pulled out his phone, sent a text. 30 seconds later, a response came through. He looked at the prosecutor. Your people control the lobby. Yes. Tell them to let Rowe's men through. Her eyes widened. What? You heard me, let them through, all the way up. That's insane. That's strategy. If they're here, they're not where we're going. The prosecutor stared at him, then nodded slowly, made the call. Rhett turned to Caelan. You trust me? Caelan looked at this man who'd stepped into his crisis without hesitation, who'd protected him when the world wanted him broken, who'd kept every promise even when it cost him everything. Yes. Rhett scooped him up like he weighed nothing. Milo still clutched against Caelan's chest. The prosecutor opened the window. Rhett climbed through. The fire escape was old, rusted. It creaked under their weight. Caelan held his breath, held Milo tighter, prayed the metal wouldn't give. They made it to the 2nd floor landing, then the 1st. A car was waiting in the alley below, black sedan, engine running. The driver's door opened. And Kia stepped out. Caelan's world stopped. He wasn't the same, thinner, harder, scars traced lines across his jaw that hadn't been there before. His eyes carried weight they hadn't carried 4 months ago. But it was him. Alive. Real. Caelan couldn't breathe, couldn't speak, couldn't do anything but stare. Kia looked up, saw him, and something in his expression cracked. Rhett reached the ground, set Caelan on his feet carefully, steadied him. Kia moved forward, stopped 3 feet away, like he wasn't sure he had the right to come closer. You're alive, Caelan whispered. So are you. The words were simple, but the weight behind them, months of fear and grief and desperate hope, made them everything. I thought you were dead. I thought you were safer thinking that. Caelan's tears came fast, hard. You left me. I was trying to protect you. By disappearing, by letting me think. By keeping Crowe away from you. Kia's voice cracked. He wanted you, wanted the baby. I couldn't let him have you, so I made myself the target, led him away, made him think I had something he wanted more. What? Information, evidence, names of everyone he'd ever worked with. Kia's hands clenched into fists. I let him catch me, let him think I'd talk, bought you 4 months to run. Caelan shook his head. I didn't run, I couldn't. I was pregnant and terrified, and I had Milo and... I know, I've been tracking you since you got on that plane. Caelan's breath caught. The messages. Kia nodded. Some of them were me. Some were Crowe using my phone. I couldn't risk direct contact until I knew you were safe. I'm not safe. Crowe's out. He's here. I know, that's why I came. Behind them. The hospital's side entrance burst open. Crowe's men poured out, 4 of them, armed, determined. Kia turned, positioned himself between them and Caelan. Rhett did the same. The lead man smiled. You really think you can stop all of us? Rhett's expression didn't change. I don't think I know. Sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. The prosecutor appeared in the doorway above, marshals flanking her, weapons drawn. Federal agents, drop your weapons. The men hesitated. The lead one looked at Keir. Crowe wants his property back. Keir's voice was ice. Tell Crowe he can't have what was never his. The sirens grew louder. Backup arrived. Squad cars blocked both ends of the alley. Crowe's men were surrounded. They dropped their weapons. It was over. Not the war, not the threat, but this moment, this fight. Caelan collapsed against Keir, felt arms come around him, felt Milo pressed between them, safe and warm and alive. I'm sorry, Keir whispered against his hair. I'm so sorry. You came back. I promised I would. The federal agents moved in, arrested Crowe's men, secured the scene. The prosecutor approached Rhett. We'll need statements. Rhett nodded. Later, right now we're getting them somewhere safe. She didn't argue. 3 weeks later, Caelan went into labor. Real labor this time, full term, healthy. Keir was there, held his hand, whispered promises and apologies and love. Rhett was there too, standing guard, making sure nobody who meant harm got through the door. The baby was born strong, dominant, Enigma bloodline clear even in infancy. They named him Asher, after Keir's father, after hope. Milo was placed with extended family, safe, protected, the Caldero syndicate's reach ensuring no one would ever use him as a weapon again. Crowe went to trial. The evidence was overwhelming. Video, financial records, testimony from 24 victims. He was convicted on all counts. Life in prison, no parole. Justice wasn't loud. It was efficient. Caelan stood in the hospital room holding Asher, Keir beside him, scars and all, changed but here. You saved us, Caelan said softly. Keir shook his head. You saved yourself, I just made sure you had the chance. Rhett stood near the window, watching, protecting. You never claimed what wasn't yours, Caelan said to him. Rhett's expression softened slightly. Power isn't about claiming, it's about what you do when you have it. Caelan looked down at Asher, at this tiny life that had survived impossible odds. Then at Milo's empty crib in the corner, at the blanket still folded there. The baby who cried on the plane ended a war, he said quietly. No, Rhett corrected gently, you did by being worth saving. Keir's arm tightened around Caelan's shoulders. And for the first time in months, Caelan felt safe. Not because the danger was gone, but because he'd learned something crucial. Strength without cruelty, dominance without ownership, courage that looks like fear but moves anyway. Love isn't about never leaving. It's about always coming back. This story proved that protecting innocence sometimes means becoming dangerous to evil, that the strongest leaders kneel first, that hope isn't foolish, it's survival. And sometimes, the person who cries for help on a plane changes everything. Not with force, but by being worth fighting for. If this story moved you, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss another story that inspires. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Your words might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. Share this with someone who needs to remember that even in the darkest moments, hope is real and worth fighting for. See you in the next one.